my two homeboys, they're brothers. They were already at Howard.
Brothers like they're black or brothers like they're related?
Brothers like they're related. I made my own. I was nervous.
Can you do that?
No. No, brothers made my own princess.
Hey, everybody. Christopher Talon, host of this podcast, Creative Ops. It's a podcast for creative people by creative people. And the creative person that I talked to this time is Alexis Flakes. And that's whose voice you just heard. That's from later in the interview when she was saying that she couldn't obtain press passes to an event, so she made her own and got in that way. Hey, sometimes you do what you gotta do. Alexis is a creative now in Harlem, originally from the same town as me. We both went to the same high school, Okemos, Michigan. Alexis is a digital media creator, producer, editor, and also the host of her own creations. She's been on red carpets. She's done pop-up activities and events for health engagement in the community. She's just an all-around go-getter, interesting, creative person. She came on the show to share what she hopes will... Well, here, I'll just tell you in her words. This is what she hopes you take from this interview.
I want this to change your behavioral patterns. I want this to add another bullet point of things that are going to get done today because this is a part of what your large dreams pertain to.
So that's Alexis, and she is going to be high energy, motivational, and fun to listen to the entire time. Before we get into the interview with her, though, I want to point out right up front, it's a long interview, and if you don't stick around for the last few minutes, you might not find out where you can catch Alexis. So I'm going to plug it now.
You can find me at www.alexisflakes.com. You can also find me on Instagram at Flakes Like Frosted.
All right. At Flakes Like Frosted. Like frosted flakes. That's easy to remember. Oh, man. She should get into marketing. Oh, wait a second. She does that. She does a lot of things. She's a digital creator. She's a host. She's a health instructor. She does things in the community. She does things professionally. She's just a really cool, all-around, go-getter, creative type person, which is why I had her on the show. Thank you, Alexis, for coming on the show. Thank you for listening to the show right now. I hope you tell somebody about it if you enjoy it. And please, by all means, feel free to follow Alexis, get in touch with her if you ever got something you want to work on, or if you just need some inspiration, because, like I said, she is ready to go all the time. Just one of those super motivated people that she is a motivational poster. She is by herself a motivational poster. I don't even know what that means. All right, folks, before we waste any more of your time here is my interview. The first 40 minutes or so is mostly us talking about background, information about her, and then from that point on, about 40 minutes in, we start really getting into what she does and how she does it, and how she got into it, and yada, 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 yada. So enjoy it, folks. Alexis Flakes, and look her up on Instagram at Flakes Like Frosted. Here's the interview. Maybe that we're from the same town. Well, you guys moved into Okemos. I was born there, but you've essentially, were raised there, right?
That is correct. So living in New York City now, nobody in New York City, no shade, but like they are not concerned about most things outside of New York City. Like
right.
There's this like fake map online where it's like, this is how people in New York, from New York, think about the rest of the world. It's like New York is like the biggest thing. And then there's everything else, the South, and then a dot, right? Like that's how everything else is. So when I introduce myself, I let people know I'm from Lansing, Michigan. And very seldomly, I want to think maybe like twice in my adult life have I gone on to make sure somebody understands I graduated high school from Okemos, and it maybe because they're from Michigan and maybe would have heard of
Yeah.
Okemos, but just for any type of recognizable situation, right? Most people unfortunately don't recall that Lansing's the capital. So I remind
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
and
I know. When I was in the Navy, almost everyone was like, Detroit's the capital, right? I'm like, no.
Exactly. I'm like, no, it's definitely Lansing. But to answer your question, yes, I was born and raised in Lansing, Sparrow Hospital. We lived on the south side, right by Dwight Rich Middle School.
Oh,
And
okay.
yeah, right over there off of Pleasant Grove.
Uh-huh.
And I loved it over there. I remember like childhood memories thinking like, I just love my backyard and playing. And then it seemed like out of nowhere, we were moving and it was like a big deal. My parents were really excited. I was in the third grade when we
Mm,
moved. And so, yeah, I switched elementary schools, and that was a nice culture shock for me. But yeah,
yeah.
I'm originally from Lansing, and then third grade moved to Okemos and graduated from Okemos High School, and then the
Well,
beyond.
especially then when I don't know what Okemos looks like, if you were to do a racial makeup of the school now, but at the time when I went there, it was like there was like 2 tables at lunch of black people and everybody else was white with just a little bit of like Asian and Indian kind of sprinkled in. Was
It's a
that about the same for you, or?
very accurate.
Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, was it weird to go from a a classroom of seeing plenty of people who looked like you to being like maybe the only one or one other kid in there?
Yeah, and it would take me to be an adult to really kind of understand and reckon with myself internally on what that experience was like, what it actually was, and how
Yeah.
that shaped who I am. So my school in Lansing was called Hope Academy,
Mhm.
and Malcolm X went to that school when he lived
Oh,
in
really?
Lansing. Right? And the latter part, there's an extension that was named Shabazz, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, over there.
Yeah, I remember
So
that.
yeah. Uh, my classroom was really diverse. It was a Christian school, right? And so, like I didn't understand and really know race back then
Mhm.
before third grade. It was
Yeah.
like our population again was real diverse. It was a lot of, people of color,
Some people have brown
Hispanic
hair, some people
background.
have yellow hair, some people have white skin, some people have black skin.
Yeah. And even though I don't remember, I didn't have I had one black teacher from K through 12,
Mm.
right? Like in any school. I didn't really have black professors till I got to college, right?
Yeah.
So it
Which
wasn't
is the thing in
reflective.
Michigan, just in general, a lot of the predominantly black schools, even the one that I worked at, it was almost all white people that were on the teaching staff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, it wasn't reflective maybe in the staff, but as far as students, what I was worried about as a kid, right? Lots of people play
Mm.
with, like there wasn't that stigma. Like I had a real innocent childhood where we didn't
Yeah.
have to worry about stuff like that. And for that part, I'm grateful. And then
Mhm.
even the transition into Okemos, right? And yes, being the singular only black girl in my class, right? And that being something that would hold consistent, throughout a lot of my experiences. There are sprinkles of other black folks. You might catch a friend here and there in class, but even that, I think in my mind they probably separated us intentionally, right? Like
Yeah.
we didn't have a lot of counterparts like in class with me, and I like to look at the silver lining and the positive of all scenarios and situations, right? And what I can say about that is uh, it prepared me for working environments because I am very familiar with being the only person of color in different spaces and how to navigate that, how to socially, engage and like some of your other guests have talked about, not take offense to things, having to explain things, having that type of patience, wanting to, understand people's character versus just taking everything at face value. But then also learning how to navigate and understand when people are biased and are going to be biased towards you, no matter how nice or what you do, right? Being
Yeah.
able to understand that, like, that's a navigation tactic. You got to understand that in a couple seconds to be
Yeah.
safe out here. So, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And there was things that, growing up in Okemos and being a a straight white male, it's pretty easy ticket in life, I guess, right? But when I started hanging out with when I started hanging out with your sister, like when I was upperclassmen in high school. We went out in a large group of people. It was me, a dude named Mark. We were the only two white people, but Mark, they all considered Mark a brother.
Mark with a C, not a K.
Yeah. With
I
the red
remember
hair.
him.
Yeah. The Russian parents, and that dude was a straight up G. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember EJ? Wasn't he really good friends with
Oh
EJ?
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Jelani.
I
Yeah.
remember.
Yeah. There was a group of probably close to 10, 11, 12 of us all together. Me and Mark, everybody else was black, and Mark was, dressed the part for it anyway. And we didn't get seated. A group of people who came in behind us got seated. Then another group of people that came in behind us got seated. And then finally we just got up to leave, and we're like, all right, fuck this. And they're like, oh, we got a table for you now as we're getting ready to leave. We're like, okay. And then our bill comes when the thing's all done, and we all put our money together, and somebody forgot that they didn't have money. So we ended up being, I'm not even kidding you, it was 15 cents short on our bill, but it was at Denny's on Friday night, Saturday night. Everybody from our high school was there. I walked up to a table and I was like, well, my friend's at this table. I'm just going to go ask them for $1. They go, no, you don't bother other customers. Sit down. We're like, okay, sit back down. We wait a couple of minutes and the police show up. They called the police on a group of mostly black teenagers who were 15 cents short on the bill, and we're like, we can pay it. We're just going to go borrow money from our friends. And they're like, no, you're not. We're calling the police. And the police were like, you have friends here that will lend you the money? And I walked up to a guy. I was like, hey man, can I borrow $5 just to cover this 15 cents and then leave a tip? He's like, oh yeah, dude, for sure. We put the money down, and the police officer's like, well, it seems like that's settled then. And then the person from Denny's was like, oh, that's all you're going to do, and just stormed off. And we're like, okay, well, I guess we're not going to Denny's anymore. But that was the first time I've experienced anything like that. You know what I mean? Anything. And it took me till I was 18 to see what other people have been saying. Like, it's not easy being a black person, especially in a mostly white area. And before that, I was just kind of like, really, what's so bad about it? Not like, not in a antagonistic way, but just like, I genuinely don't know what's so bad about it. And that one experience brought it all into perspective pretty fast.
Yes, I'll share. I only started talking about this experience recently. I recanted this I was saying this to my friend in Atlanta earlier this year, right? I was talking about this story, and this is third grade. So I'm new on the playground, right?
Yeah.
And I really don't know what my teacher's intention was. I like to think that it was positive, and I'll just stay there. But I'll pretense with this with I'm not 100% sure. So let's take this story back to the 90s, right? And something that was going on in the 90s that you see now is on most plastic bags, you see that disclaimer that says this is not a toy, right?
Mm-hmm,
because there had been some cases of children suffocating themselves from the wrappers or plastic bags, things of that nature. Like, it had been a big news headline, enough for my third grade self to know, remember, right?
Yeah.
So we had a really large playground in my elementary school in Okemos, right? It was dope. And, it was surrounded by a neighborhood. So there wasn't really a lot of crime or like things like that. But every once in a while, you might get some litter from, like maybe some teenagers, whatever, like some bottles, some trash bags, whatever.
Something fell out and blew down the street. Yeah.
Exactly. Something like that. So this particular day, there was a plastic bag, like a Meyer bag, grocery store bag. And two little boys who so happened to be white wanted to play a game. Mind you, the game I had to play every day was defend myself from everybody trying to touch my hair. As you can see now, and for our audio viewers who might not be able to see, I have a blonde mohawk. And this is not the beginning of my hair journey. I've had every color, style, texture, length, anything you can imagine, it's been on my head, right? And my desire for changing my hair at my leisure began as a young child. So, my mom was big on that. We used to get our hair done, this and that, cool. And that was a real big transition from my, Christian elementary school into Okemos. It was like, oh, who's this black girl? And what's up with her hair? Like, can we touch her hair? Because mind you, me and my sister, we both had perms growing up. So my hair is like long and flowy, but it still looks different from theirs, right? It still has like the coily, kinky texture. So that was always a thing. Can I touch your hair? And I'd always be like, no. And nobody would ever take my no as a yes. And I would have to like run away and defend myself and like back people up. Like, no, you actually cannot touch me. Now I can imagine a child telling me that now. I'd be like, get him, right? Like, that's not, you cannot do that. But when
Yeah.
I'm growing up, that's a regular game. Nobody's worried about how I feel about trying to tell, everybody in the class. It was like, I felt like it was everyone against me. You know how we had those shirts that say Detroit versus everybody? It was the whole third grade versus Alexis, right? Like, I want to touch your hand. I'm like, nah, right? So this is an everyday occurrence. But this particular day, when this trash bag so happens to be on the playground, these two little boys decided they was gonna get me that day, right? They run, chase me, they got me. I didn't run track, but I'm fast, let me tell you. They got me, they tackle me, we on the ground wrestling. They get this bag and they put it over my head and hold it closed. And I'm acting a fool, obviously, because I'm aware I can die. Like, this is suffocation, like, not okay, right? So I scream and kick and cry enough to make sure they back off. I know exactly who they are. I see them, and I'm hysterical. And the teacher finally, like, sees and comes over to me, right? So I'm crying. My face is wet. Like, the bag is on the ground. I had ripped a hole in it, like, breathe, right? I'm puffing, and I'm like, it was them. I'm telling the teacher their names. I'm like, they're right there. They ran off snickering. I'm like, yeah, they are. And I remember my words were being, get them in trouble, go get them. Like, you saw what they did. Like, help me.
Yeah.
She got down, right? Because I've always been petite. Imagine third grade. I'm very right. She gets down on both her knees, right? And she takes her hands and she puts them around my shoulders. So she has me like secure and locked in. And she looks me in my eye and she says, no, I'm not going to get them in trouble. She picked up the bag, she dusted my back off and said, go play. That was it. If that story would have been reversed in any of the characters, in anything, it would have been completely different. I can't imagine a little black boy doing that to a little white girl. You would not be at school the next day. You would be suspended. What? But it's allowed. Like, she completely allowed it. Like, and the reason why I say I want to give her the benefit of the doubt, but I really don't know, is because looking back at that story as an adult, what I'm thinking, if I'm her, right? Because I am an educator. So, I understand the plight of, wanting to, be there and, offer a safe and secure learning environment for your students, right? Mm-hmm. So what I want to think is that she was looking to prepare me for, future events and wanted to facilitate a place where I would have to calm myself down and, use my own wherewithal and resolve to work through it, which is actually what happened, right? I want to think that because I want to think positively. Yeah. However, I do have to consider that this is what she knew. This is what she thought was appropriate. And because of that, she made a specific decision to not take any further action, because if you really think in your mind that this is okay, there's no further action to take. Yeah. I don't want to think that, but I do have to acknowledge that may be a possibility. However, I would continue on, and I made it through the 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade and on to graduate. So it wasn't like it stopped me, but you see, like, your experience, you got to high school before you could really like grapple and understand and have a scenario situation. This is my first semester on the playground, 3rd grade. I walked in and it was like I instantly
a little kid, and a little kid at that too. Like, if you're facing physical violence and you're a small girl, then that's probably 5 times more horrifying.
Yeah, I just knew instantly. It was like a light bulb came on. I was like, oh, this is black. I understand black and white. This right here. The difference is clear to me. There's not a lot of ambiguity anymore. So yeah.
It's funny too, because I always considered myself kind of an outsider in Okemos culture, just because my parents did, okay, but they had a modest sized house. They drove modest cars, and they didn't have huge incomes. So people were like, hey, you want to come with us on this ski weekend? I'd be like, hey, can I go? And my parents like, can't afford that. Like, so I was like, oh. And then I started actually losing friends the older we got, because they're like, hey, we're all going to go to this place and we're all going to go spend a weekend here. I'm like, I can't afford that shit. Okay, I guess you're just not coming. Bye. Not to say that those two experiences are like right here with each other.
I think about that, and I think that's interesting too, because another interesting thing, another scenario that has set me up, I think, for success in life. Right, the first in me being in situations with mostly white people and understanding how to personally navigate that. I think that's like the first blessing. And second, I think that a lot of times, with or without knowing, there's a class divide between white folks and black folks, especially in areas like Okemos, right? Where it's
Mm,
like, oh, I'm not, it's not a racial thing. It's just like, this is the level that my income, this is the level of lifestyle that my income provides me. And this is just kind of like what we do, right?
mm,
And what I can say about my parents and moving to the suburbs is that we really did the whole thing. We moved to the suburbs in the house in the subdivision,
mhm.
and that was something that white folks could never hold over me. Like, it might not be anything they say out loud, but even like little things, like, I don't know if it was like this for you, but we rode the school bus home. The majority of the kids of color would get off at this particular stop because they were apartments and that's where most of them lived, right? And
Mhm.
then if you didn't live there, you were on the bus longer and it took another 20-ish minutes to get out to where the rest of the houses were, right?
Mhm.
And the bus driver and all the other kids would always make note that I don't live there. Like, I live in the real suburbs, in the houses next to, the rest of my classmates, right? And so I think even that has I've been able to play that to my benefit because my parents never made a big deal about where we live. I didn't know until I got to college that I had a really solid middle class upbringing. I completely didn't know that.
Yeah, people outside of Okemos, they're just like, "You're from Okemos? Oh, you're rich."
Yeah, I didn't. I
Yeah,
really didn't know. I
yeah.
because I just
It's
generally
a
didn't know.
bubble, it's a bubble. You don't really know unless you're outside of it,
Yeah.
and get enough exposure, but, you like you said, you moved when you were in 3rd grade. I don't really remember much of my 3rd grade or anything before it. You know what I mean? A little bit.
Yeah, but like I remember like different scenarios where they would, make little comments about other kids of color, like their clothes or their shoes or where they live or things like that. And couldn't nobody ever say anything to me because y'all know where I live. Like, y'all know what time it is, right? And
Yeah.
so, not to give myself any kind of false sense of pride, because money don't make or break you. We can all agree on that. But I
Yeah,
think
there's
that
plenty of assholes that nobody can stand that have a ton of money.
exactly. But I think that when you're growing up and developing and you have a whole group of people who's the majority and you're the minority and they can hold different things over you,
Mm,
that can eat away at your subconscious, your self
yeah.
confidence, right? It
Yeah, for
without you
sure.
even knowing, because you're young and you're still developing. What I'm suggesting is that it was still a lot of things that people could poke and mess with, but that's not one of them.
Yeah.
And I think that's important because a lot of black folks in my adult life I've come across, and they clam up around white folks, or say that they don't want to be in scenarios where they're the only one. And I think that's unfortunate because we have to put ourselves in different scenarios, but the reason behind it is because they've always been made to feel less than because of the scenarios that they have found themselves in the past, right? And I'm
Mhm.
saying like that because of my parents and the lifestyle that they provided for me, my sister, we had lots of issues, but that wasn't one of them. And I'm glad to kind of have that, because you don't want to be the one who is always has the short stick, or the one the joke is always about, or
Yeah.
to always be poked at or made to feel a certain type of way. So
Yeah.
I'm at least glad for that, not for the financial side, but for the you can't have everything. Like, there are other people that have means for a lifestyle that may not look like you, and that's okay. Like, I
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that we were kind of able to break that mold. Like, all black people don't look like this and just do this. There are other things that incorporate who we are and what our life looks like. So yeah.
Yeah. Just one more story, and then we'll kinda get off a different topic here. But,
Okay.
I went to go visit, Ashley's friend Lynn when she was at Florida A&M, and we went to a
Yes.
football game, and there was one dude in the marching band. For anybody that doesn't know, Florida A&M is a great school, historically black college
See
slash
you.
university, HBCU. And there was one guy in the marching band at halftime that was white, and he had cymbals, and the cymbal guys all had to like put their cymbals up and like do like that. But this dude did not look good doing it, and he
Oh,
already probably felt bad because everyone in the crowd was black. Everyone else in the band was black, and everyone was just started pointing like, "Look at the white boy." But then one person goes, "Hey," and then points at me, and this dude goes, "Oh, I'm sorry, bro." I
You
was
see
like,
how
"Well, I
people
mean, he is a bad
are?
dancer, but yeah,
That's great. That's great. Oh, that's a
yeah,
good story.
yeah." So, right out of the gate, you leave Okemos, you go to Howard, which is Washington. That's in Washington D.C.
Correct.
Did you specifically? Was there something about Howard? Was there something about going to a historically black college, or both?
Yes. So I remember the antithesis. Like when I'm fixing to graduate high school, I'm gonna tell you, Chris, my only goal, my prayer every day was, God, I just want to get into a good college and get out
Yeah,
of Michigan. Oh, my only goal. I have to leave here. There's
yep,
nothing here for me. I gotta go. Right.
yep,
I always wanted to leave.
yeah.
And
I got
uh
out, but I ended up back just in a different town.
in a different town, right?
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, I love Michigan and I visit often and I rep it all the time. But I'm glad that my life's journey has led me other places. So
Mm.
I
It's a
knew
good
I
place to
wanted.
be from, I say.
Yes, it's a great place to be from. Like
You got a
epic
good
childhood,
education,
right?
you were safe, you probably played sports and had a good time, and then
All
real
that.
life. Yeah.
All that. Yes, great place to be from. Great place to raise a family. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I would not have picked it for myself. I remember thinking as a young child, like before we got to Okemos, like, why are we from here? Like, why do we live here? Like, I'm watching the Cosby Show and they have their stoop and stuff. I'm like, why do I live there? Like, I wanted to audition for stuff, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah. But looking back, no, parents, y'all get an A plus. That's a good place to be from, right? Good,
Hmm.
solid, holistic Midwestern values, right? Uh, but I knew that I knew a couple things, and Howard fit all my criteria. And what I can say is, we all make different decisions that lay out the trajectory of our life. I couldn't have known when I was making that decision at 15, 16, because I left at 17.
Hmm.
I couldn't have known like how big of a decision or how much it would impact my life. But I'm getting chills right now thinking about it. And I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful to God and the universe for guiding me in that direction, because I know without a shadow of a doubt, that was the right decision for me. Howard was it for me. Like everything I was looking for, it had. Like I felt like I was looking for my life to start. I felt like I was looking to make my own decision and kind of pave my own way. And Howard, as an introductory into adult life,
Hmm.
was really, it was really just a good fit for me, who I am, my personality, and where I was looking and where I'm still going. Right. So
Hmm.
uh, I know I wanted to leave Michigan, and I always wanted to live in New York, but I also knew that I was in a bubble, because I was able to do, some traveling throughout high school, whether it be in the orchestra, going to Germany, being with my grandma. My grandma was always taking us on a church trip somewhere,
Yeah.
right? Like we were able, to go different places, experience things. So I didn't quite understand the bubble, but I knew I was in some kind of bubble, right? So
Yeah.
I was, looking to, expand from that and study business, be in a metropolitan city. And DC, just again, it just worked out because I figured that I might not quite be ready for New York. I again couldn't gauge how naive I was, and I probably still am a little green and wet behind the ears, right? Uh, but I knew like I wouldn't even call it stair step city, because DC is its own like thing, but nothing is like New York. So I knew like being out of Michigan and in a, big city prior
Hmm.
to getting to New York, right? I knew
Yeah.
that was going to be beneficial for me. And like,
Yeah. Because I'm
knowing,
thinking if you just picked up straight from Okemos and moved right into Harlem, that would
could you
that'd be
imagine?
a rough that'd be a rough couple of weeks.
Right. I don't know how that would have worked out. Like I might have had to go back home. Like it
Yeah.
might not have worked out the way I imagined, right? So exactly. DC was a good, starting place as far as like leaving Michigan and wanting to go somewhere.
Hmm.
And Howard had my program, and that's what I look to advise students in their transition into college life. Like, make sure your school has your program, and even if you don't have your major picked out, have an idea,
Hmm.
because Howard is renowned for their business school, and I knew I was going to be a business major, so it just some things lined up for me. So yeah, that's how I decided, and that's how it worked out for me. But I have a good friend. He went to Michigan State, right? We grew up together.
Yeah.
He graduated from Everett, right? And his parents and my parents are still really close. And he said to me recently, like in the past like 2 years, he was like, yeah, your parents just let you go to Howard. I said, whoa, you must not remember the story, because that's not how it went down. This was not, oh, hey, Alexis, good job, just go to Howard. No, it was like kicking, screaming, crying. That's a whole testimony right there. Like, first of all, my parents weren't excited about me going to school out of state. My sister went to U of M. Hey, go blue, right? Most of my cousins went to school in state, Central Michigan, Western, right?
Like half of my graduating class, probably yours, went to Michigan State.
Yeah, between University of Michigan, Michigan State, Eastern or Western, maybe Central, right? Like
maybe
those
Central.
those are the top 5 schools. LCC, that's where people went to school, right? So for me to want to go out of state into Howard, a black school like that, what? Like, no, the beginning was a complete no. Mind you, I had been on a couple black college tours. So I've been around, a few campuses, and, like being in DC, the metropolitan city thing, that again was a big selling point. So my parents were like so not with it that I wanted to apply out of school. They were like, well, we're only paying for your applications for in-state schools. And me, I'm like, fine. So I got a job. So I started working at McDonald's, and my McDonald's money paid for my prom dress, which I designed myself, and all my applications that I sent in to out-of-state schools, right? So then I get accepted to Tennessee State.
Oh,
and my godmother went there, right? Go Tigers, right? And so I'm like, oh, it's HBCU. It's still my thing. I'm going to go there. I had 2 friends that were a year ahead of me that were already down there. I was feeling good about it, but I hadn't heard back from Howard. And I knew deep in my heart, Howard was my number 1 school, but I didn't hear back from them, right? Yeah. So I'm talking to my guidance counselor, and she's like, that's weird. Like, they're going to tell you if you don't get in. I just assumed I didn't get in. She was like, no, that's not how that works. So we called that day in the office.
Yeah, the college just ghosted.
Yeah, like she's like, nah, sis, like we need to follow up. So we called the admissions office, right? And they're like, yeah, Flakes. They're like, we have your application, but we have your money rather, but we lost your application. So classic HBCU. If any HBCU are listening, y'all know how that go. I should have understood what I was getting myself into, but that's a whole different story. But anyway, so I get all my stuff back together. I resubmit, and I get into Howard. So I'm like, yes. I thought the hurdles were over. No, Chris, it wasn't over. So now I'm like, I'm with it. And at first, my parents were like, DC, that's the hood. No, like you are not going there. I'm not with it. And I'm like, what? And so now I'm having this like knockdown, drag out argument with my parents on I'm grown now, and y'all say college. You didn't say which college. Like, what's up? So we're going forward. And I'm
surprised they were not more like, just like, wow, she's really got conviction. I'm impressed. They were like, no.
But then 2004, 05, no, right? No, it was not that way. So I have to give a big shout out to my 2 homeboys, their brothers. They were already at Howard.
Brothers like they're black, or brothers like they're related?
Brothers like they're related. Josh and Justin Thomas, shout out to the Thomas family. They were already at Howard, and their parents know my parents, so I think that eased them over a little bit. And then some of my dad's other friends who, have older kids were like, it's not that bad. She'll be okay. Yeah. So like after all that and getting accepted and paying the deposit to go to Tennessee State, I changed my mind. My parents got over it enough to say, okay. And at 17, we packed up all my stuff and we drove down to DC, and I've been living my life ever since.
I guess from a parent's perspective, though, I can see you got your 17-year-old, as we've already mentioned, petite little girl. I would be sad about sending her to a big city in a different part of the country too.
Yeah. But it worked out for me.
Do you know who Roy Woods Jr. is, the comedian?
Mm-hmm.
I was listening to his podcast, Roy's Job Fair, and this dude was talking about black colleges. I think he might have been talking about Morehouse specifically, said that they have excellent security and they've got gates. And if they see somebody on the grounds after hours when the gates are closed, they'll shoot them with rubber bullets. Was Howard that locked down on their security, or not so much?
That's funny. No.
Okay.
We have gates, yeah, and we have security.
But they're not lining people up with rubber bullets.
No, Like, I don't recall anybody getting down with a rubber bullet. I'm not gonna lie to you.
He was talking about trying to get into, it might have been just an all-girls school too, like crawling over the gates, trying to sneak into the dorms.
Oh yeah, because Morehouse is right across from Spelman.
That's what he was talking about. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. He was at Morehouse and he was trying to sneak onto Spelman campus or something. Yeah.
It would be like that. How you be like, Howard is co-ed, praise God. But no, we had gates and everything. We had campus security. I felt secure on campus. However, it is DC, and a lot happens in metropolitan cities, right? But
sure, yeah.
I never felt unsafe on campus. That's my experience, though.
Yeah. But still, no rubber bullets. That's good.
No rubber bullets. No.
Real life does. We can light it up.
It says hospitality management. Did you go into the hospitality field right away, or did you kind of deviate from the get-go?
I did. So I changed my major 3 times. I had 3 different majors, rather, in undergrad, right? So I came in as a management major in the School of Business. And that was cool my freshman year. But then I said, I want to explore more. And so I changed my major to marketing. I was like, oh yeah, marketing. Yeah. Out here. So by the time I get to my junior, so I'm a marketing major, my sophomore, my junior year. And I get to the end of the first semester, my junior year, and I got a D in a marketing class. And I said, dang, your GPA has to be at a certain rate in your major for you to graduate, which means you really can't get a whole lot of anything but A's and B's in your major classes.
Yeah.
You can really only afford to have 1 or 2 C's and maybe 1 D if you think you're fixing to graduate. There's not a whole lot of leeway in your major. You need to be proficient, right? Understandable.
Yeah.
So I thought to myself, this is cool and all, but I'm not doing as well as what I need to actually graduate. And my whole goal was graduating on time. That was a big deal for me. I'm glad I made that.
Did you have to do some 18 credit semesters with switching majors that many times?
Boo, what are you talking about? Almost every semester I'm taking 21 credits. I'm always taking mad credits.
Oh man.
And summer school, always stacking up on classes. The lightest semester I ever had was probably 18 credits.
Oof.
Yeah.
You stayed in those books.
Yeah, I stayed in them. And I worked in a restaurant. So sophomore year, I get my job at a restaurant. And I'm the champion in restaurants. It worked out well for me. Mind you, I worked at McDonald's in high school.
Yeah, so you already knew how to grind.
Yeah. And then I started working at this restaurant in DC in college, right? And I was an RA. So I have lots going on in addition to being in school and being extracurricular at school, right? So at the end of my junior year, I'm like, if I stay as this major, as a marketing major, I'm not going to graduate on time. And that was my goal, right? So I said, I had some friends in the hospitality program and I looked deeper into it. And I had a light bulb moment. I'm at work one day, right? And my bartender asked me for a glass from the other side of the bar. And I was like, sure, right? Just give him a glass, no problem. And he said, Alexis, you're so hospitable. Light bulb. I said, it clicked. I was like, oh God, that's the answer. If I'm going to graduate, I need to change my major. And I did. And then I joined the National Society of Minorities in Hospitality, which was just a great group, a great conference, just a great thing to be a part of. And summer going into senior year. And then all senior year, I took my hospitality courses and was able to graduate on time with my degree in hospitality, which I'm so proud about. My homeboy, I've never met somebody who is so upfront about their major. It's almost like they meet you and you're like, yeah, I'm a hospitality major. I'm so ready to tell the world. But that's how we are. Most hospitality majors are that way. I met a hospitality major on Amtrak and he was telling me how he's a hospitality major. And I was like, no, that's wild. But it was one of the first things he said because that's our culture. That's what we do. And so I graduated Howard in 2009, right? And if y'all remember 2008, economic downturn, ain't nobody got no house, doom, boom, nobody has a job.
That's what a gloomy time to graduate.
Nobody has a job. And it's everybody was moving back in with their mamas. And I thought,
welcome into the real world. It sucks.
I said, I can't do it, God. I said, you didn't bring me this far. You didn't let me get to DC to move back to Michigan. I just can't do it. I did this unpaid internship at a hotel. Mind you, I'm still working at the restaurant. my living situation was like bomb when I first graduated. I had a mentor who lived up the street from campus, and he rented a whole house. It had 2 extra bedrooms, and so I like rented a room. So like, I had a stable place and everything like that. But to pay my rent, I was working at the restaurant and I was interning at the hotel. They ended up liking me, and so then I got a full-time front desk position, and I came in the game, my professional working life at the hotel, the front desk. Cool. I quickly came to understand that I'm great at front of house services, but working the front desk is not my life's passion. It's not my life's work. There has to be more to life. I just didn't like it. I just knew I could and should be doing more. And
Yeah, you weren't going to sleep feeling like, I can't
exactly.
wait for
And
that.
I deserve to feel like that. Like that's the life I want to live. Exactly that. Like I'm excited to get up versus I can't believe I have to go here again.
Yeah. How many more days till the weekend?
Yeah, and then my shift was all off because I had to work. I was the newest one in, so I had to work the 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. shift, which is a shift nobody wants because you can hang out during the day, but not really. Everybody's at work. DC closes at 2. So,
Yeah.
like, if you get off at 11, if you're not going straight to the club, like, you're not making it. A funny kind of shift to work. I had to work all the weekends. I would have, like, random days during the week off, and it was just not quite right for me. And so that was something that helped me in my catalyst and transition into moving to New York.
I was going to ask you a question about like some red carpet stuff, but we
Yes.
gotta work our way up to that.
Okay.
What was the opportunity or the thing that just intrigued you where you were like, oh, I'm going to try this?
That's a great question. So my dream has always been to be a host, a talk show host.
Mm.
And I suppressed that for a long time. And I thought to myself, I'm going to make money over here. And once I get enough money, I'll be able to be stable and support myself. And then that'll give me the time and space to pursue being a host, right? That was always my thought.
Which is the kind of the conventional wisdom is like, you should first secure yourself before you try to do anything too risky.
Exactly. I think that's a great word. And I think that's a great description. And that even gives me more insight into like where my mind was at and what was actually happening, because it took me a long time to understand and really decide within myself that I am just a creative. Because again, like I come from a conventional background. I was a business major. I really didn't see myself as a creative.
You're just a good girl from the Midwest who does what you're told and tries to exceed expectations.
That's it, right? But then with, moving to New York and like getting to the nitty gritty of like what this grind is and goal and real goals and dreams, I came to understand that I'm just not conventional. And that's the reason why that methodology, that thought process wasn't working for me, because I'm over here trying to secure something, then to go on to goals and dreams, when in reality,
which is that same part of your soul that's like, we got to get out of Okemos.
yes, we gotta get out of here. We gotta escape this. This is not for us, right? In reality, I'm sure there are some people who can tell you the story and how they did that. They secured whatever, and then they went after and it worked out for them. I'm sure that's a thing. And God bless them. You have to go to them for that story. That's not my story. My story is, and I tried that. That didn't work for me. And I had to really kind of double down and reimagine, refocus on what it is I actually want, and then make waves in that specifically. Like, this what you want to do? Spend your time doing that and just that, right? So to answer your question, I was doing a lot of other things. From like when I first moved to New York, I was a cocktail server again, right? And that was like my bread and butter. I also explored like real estate and several different like business ventures that I like started on my own to like see how they could grow and build. And I transitioned from, I moved every single year. So I'm in a different apartment like every year. And in one of those transitions, I didn't have a house to go to. So I ended up like surfing couches for a while. And my parents were really not with the shit. Like, oh no. They were really like, what's happening? Come home, go back to school. And I'm like, no, I'm a New Yorker. Right? Like, this story is actually a lot more dramatic. That's how I feel about it now, right?
Yeah.
And then I, figured whatever I figured out, and I moved into where I'm at now, which is my apartment in New York City, where I live alone. It is a 1-bedroom, and I am so happy. I'm so happy. I love all my former roommates, but I love that we have a relationship and do not live together, right?
Yeah. At a certain age, it's not as much fun to be like, hey, let's all stay up as late as we can. you know?
Exactly. So it was when I moved into here, right? I moved into this apartment in 2016, and I had a housewarming. And I had a friend say to me, right, and I'm gathered with all my friends, and my first housewarming in New York, I didn't know anybody. I just knew my roommates. And now whenever I do an event, I have like this real eclectic group of people who will come out and support me and love me. And that is like a real gem of life. Like I'm excited that I've been able to create and cultivate that. So I'm having that experience. And a homie at my housewarming is like, Alexis, like, this is a new era for you. Like, you can really do what you want. Like, you're manifesting your dreams. And it really kind of set with me. So I was like, in my mind, I said, you're right. You know, like this idea, I've always wanted to be a host, and I've tried everything else. Like, they say the internet, YouTube has told me all you need is a phone. I ain't got no camera, I ain't got nothing, but I do have a cell phone. So because I have this cell phone, I should be able to create what I'm looking to create, and at least get started. I have to get started, right? Then everything else. At least let me get started on this dream. So that's the answer. Like, what was the catalyst? Like moving into this apartment, having that conversation, and really moving on it. And what happened was, I bought a flimsy cell phone tripod,
Mhm.
and I set it up, and I started to record myself, and I named my show Let Me Find Out. And my show was an interview series where I would interview my friends about the interesting things that they, interesting professions that they had, in hopes that the viewers would have a better understanding of a person of color who was in this field, how to get into it, and if it aligned with their personal values, right? Like, just, to give, some insight into different career paths. That's always been my thing. I want to explore career paths, right? So I started like doing my show, and I said to myself, like, I need to edit it. Like, I need to cut it together and like make it into something. And I don't, again, I have no kind of like communication background. I'm a business major, period. Right.
Mm.
And I'm notorious for like not being the best with technology. Like, my friends always laugh at me. I always had a, like I still have an Android. I had a BlackBerry back in the day. Right. Like all this Mac stuff, like all this is like new to me. So I knew I had to like figure out some type of editing situation to like actually cut and make a show the way I envisioned. So I had a homeboy he's an editor, and he's the nicest, will help you, cool kind of guy. But I have learned in this creative process that your exchange, it should be money, and if it's not, the barter has to be something solid. Like, that's how people mess up working with friends, because like y'all don't have a real clear understanding of what the exchange of value is. And that's where business background comes in. What is the contract? Where is the exchange of value? Like, what are the terms and conditions? Like, what are we actually doing? Right. So I'm talking to my homeboy, and he was cutting me the friends and family rate. He was like, yeah, Alexis, I can do the episodes. I can do that for you, but it's going to cost like this much. And looking back, he was really hooking me up. He was trying to work with me. But Chris, let me tell you, I couldn't afford that. Whatever he was charging me, I just couldn't afford it. So I said to myself, okay, I have to teach myself how to edit if I want a show. So I did. Me and YouTube got real familiar. I bought the software. Holla at me. Anybody who's on that Adobe Premiere Pro, that Adobe Suite Life, what's up? Creative Cloud Suite. So I taught myself how to edit using Premiere just through YouTube. And when I tell people that now, like, what? Like, you did? What? That's crazy. And I'm like, I didn't have any options. Like, I was trying to do it, right? And so then I had a birthday, and I'm good for a birthday launch. I had a birthday party. It was at this art gallery, and I launched my first episode, and I did an 8-episode season. And that was the beginning of me teaching myself how to edit and like putting something out there. Did anything really come of that per se? I got a couple views. I'm out here, but the transition into like actually working in media, the reason why I like to highlight that backstory is for anybody listening, it was me learning, or teaching myself rather, how to edit. That was the real game changer in my life, right? So now I'm working in education full time. At the time, I'm working at Columbia University. They have an elementary school, and I would create curriculum and teach programs in their after school department, right? Cool. So I'm doing that, and it's like, it's a good look for me. Like, that was a really good experience, and a lot of things I'm doing now are building upon that. But I knew that working and teaching that capacity, again, it's not my dream. Like, I'm a host, right? Like, I'm doing that. So I I leave there, and my transition out of there into media was like really rocky. And I didn't know what my next move was going to be for a long time, like just kind of sitting and not knowing. That part is hard. And so I started looking online and going to any kind of media event, Black women in media, media conferences, after work, happy hour sessions with anybody in media, like any kind of thing I could find, I would go to. I go to this one particular event, right? And I was nervous, Chris, like the day of. I had started to work with this outlet. Again, nothing ever came of me working with this outlet, but I had asked them to give me credentials, like any kind of like lanyard or something that had my name on it to show that I'm working with them. They never sent them. And this event, it was like the ticket, again, couldn't afford it. But if you went as press, of course, press passes is free because you're covering the event, right? So I needed a press pass to go. And I thought I was going to get one. I didn't. I made my own. I was nervous.
Can you do that?
No. No. Made my own press pass. But I had my camera. Like, I'm still going to do what I said I was going to do. I'm making a video, but like, it's not for any particular outlet but mine, right? So made my own credentials. They were not checking them at the door and we're not worried about it. Praise God. But like,
I was going to say, I'm just imagining you walking by there being like,
yes, I have a camera.
La-di-da, here I am.
La-di-da. I had spent my last little bit on a camera and a laptop to be able to continue. So these are my resources. This is all I got. So I had a camera and I went, and I was so nervous, but I'm so glad because again, that day changed my life. So I go and it's like panels all day of different media professionals, mostly it was this Black women in media panel, right? Cool. And so at the end of the day, like the second to the last panel, I'd been there all day shooting, right? Not knowing what I'm fixing to do with all this footage, but another story. So the last panel had like 5 young ladies on it. And one of them I recognized because I just was familiar with her. I had seen her speak in different events before. I knew that she was the face of the griot, right? And so I just was familiar with her. And so afterward, they do a real great panel. And afterward, they're gathering and taking questions. After the panel, you kind of have like a little powwow session with the people on it, right? And so I go up to her and I'm chopping her up afterward. And I can imagine how this went now because like working in media now, like growing up on somebody just being like, I want to be a host. That's a little bit crazy. A little bit crazy.
Like, you and a lot of other people, get out of my face.
Exactly. But again, I'm green. I don't know. He like, yeah, I'm sure you do want to be a host. Next, like whatever. But I do that. I roll up on her like, I want to be a host. Right. And she's like, yeah, she's so nice, so non-pretentious, right? She was like, yeah, okay, that's great. However, we're not really looking for hosts right now. What we are looking for are editors. Here I go. I said, I can edit, right? And she's like, bet, send me some of your clips. Send me some things that you've edited in the past, right? And again, looking back, that little stuff, no, my editing game, praise God, is a lot better now. But those little clips, I didn't have to there's no way to teach yourself how to do that overnight. This has been 6 months to a year of me figuring it out, going online, buying the software, editing my own stuff, doing it again, right? And so I had a couple of clips from the show that I made up and edited myself, right? And I was able to send off to her. And so it wasn't like a one and done closed deal. We went back and forth a few times. I sent all my stuff off I said I would very promptly that same day that I was doing something, right? I can send a quick email with my links right now. Ooh, didn't hear nothing for weeks, right? I said, dang. I went to an event, and mind you, I'm in a place where, again, I don't know what's going to happen next. I had left my education career and I'm looking to transition into media, but I don't know what that looks like yet. So I'm in a real interim at this moment. So I'd been a couple weeks, and I go to an event that I had to buy a last minute ticket to go to. And when I say this ticket broke me, I was mad at myself, but I was getting ready to leave. Right before I leave out, I see the same young lady. She's at the event. I'm like, yes. So I'm like, hey, did you get my email? She was like, yeah, I got it. I've been out the country. Email me again. So I was like, great. So email her again. Nothing happens. I go to DC for a few days because my sister that year, she was being honored. She got Nurse of the Year at her hospital. Ooh, shout out to my sister, Nurse of the Year. So I
awesome.
go down there to support her, right? And again, I'm in this like really big like flux transition. Like, I don't know what's fixing to happen for me. I'm celebrating you all day, sis, but I gotta figure out my life, right?
Yeah.
So we're down there trying to celebrate and stuff, and I get an email from somebody else in the company. And they're like, do this editing test. So I'm like, okay. So I do the test and I send it in, and I don't hear anything. So I'm like, Chris, like, dang. I'm like, if you can just tell me that I'm whack, tell me I'm whack. Don't not respond.
Yeah.
Like, man, like,
Just break it to me fast and hard. Just give it to me.
Just give it to me, right? Nothing. I would later come to find that individual, they left the organization, they left the company. They years later came back, but like they left. So no wonder like my stuff always kept getting shelved, right? And so then somebody like the editor, the main editor that they had there, he worked in a lot of different capacities. He was, multi-talented, and he was getting ready to go be a production manager on tour with a music artist, right? And so he wasn't going to be in studio to like do some daily editing work. So they called me in for an interview, right? It's a Wednesday. I remember because I teach yoga on Wednesdays, right? So Wednesday morning, it's like, yeah, we have interview slots today. Can you be here at noon? It's 10 a.m. I'm like, yep. I materialized downtown. This interview was all of, I'll give it 5, maybe 7 minutes at best. This interview was well under 10 minutes. It was like, yeah, we've seen your clips. Yeah, we think you can handle it. Yeah, I think this might be a good scenario. And it was like, it didn't end with we're going to call you. End it with, so are you ready to shoot right now? Because we have 3 segments today. Are you ready? I shot all day that day and edited a piece that same day. And that was my intro into media. I have been working in the media game ever since. That was March 16th, 2018. And I can say that I came in as an editor, doing daily editing projects. I worked up to be a producer, junior producer. And the production part is more of like the like the beginning, like getting things organized for the shoot. And editing is like post-production. It's like after the shoot, right? Again, my goal was always to be a host, right? So
you want to be the person in between the two,
exactly. So I came in doing this part, which is very tedious. It's challenging. It's hard. Like a lot of people, like they just don't have the patience to edit and like to understand the software and like pull it all together. It's like a real fundamental like storytelling ability, right? To be able to edit, right? So started there, cool. Then pulling stuff together because I know how it's gonna look in the final cut because I'm cutting it right now. I started producing. Okay, cool, right? And I fell in love with producing. I'm a natural born producer, and I'm glad to be able to use my skills and talents in that capacity. And then Chris, finally, I've been in the game a couple years. Some hosting opportunities opened up here and there that I was excited to fill. But now,
I want to know about some of them specifically too. But go ahead, continue.
But I'm excited to report that now I am a weekly host. I have a weekly spot every Thursday. You can catch me on thegrill.com doing Top 3. It is a segment that covers the top 3 stories in Black entertainment news. It's a segment that runs every day. I am your Thursday host. So I give the whole backstory to say, I still edit, I still produce, but I am excited to have that consistent digital spot with that outlet. And then I also do my own special projects and my own.
Oh, and I just want to say that looks really good too. Like letting people know, what was it that Tina Turner just sold her entire catalog?
Yes. Yeah, you saw that was last week's segment. Yeah. I'm like, you be watching. I was reporting on Tina last week. That's right.
Good for her, man. That's some money right there.
Absolutely. 50 million. Go ahead, Tina.
I think she was probably doing okay, but now she's definitely doing okay.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Tina's my girl. Tina, the musical.
That woman's an inspiration.
Yes. I saw the musical on my birthday when it came out a few years ago. And then I came to find I have a colleague who is the stage manager. And then the next year on my birthday, I saw him with the cast during COVID, like at a restaurant. So I have like a real like interesting just experience with Tina, again, going to see the show and like growing up on Tina Turner music and just loving her small town girl, big city dream story, right? So yeah, that's my girl.
Okay, what is how would you explain the griot? I mean, how would you explain the griot to people?
So the griot technically is,
GRIO for people if they're not unsure of it.
correct. So a griot is actually a West African storyteller, right?
Oh, okay.
And yeah, like that's like the original term. That's where it comes from. And the griot, the news outlet, is a Black news outlet that amplifying Black culture. There we go. That is
Okay.
the slogan.
That's what I
And
was trying to think of in my head. I was like, you know what, she'll know it.
yep, the griot, amplifying Black culture. Yes.
Yeah.
And we cover everything from politics to entertainment and all things that affect the Black experience for people of the diaspora. So like it's been a real home for me. Shout out to my griot fam. And it's a place that it offers something different than other Black media outlets to me, right? Like some are more entertainment focused, some are more hard news. I think that we have a special sweet spot in offering those things. And also there are a lot of opinion pieces, right? Like the people that they pull in to give perspective on scenarios that affect the nation, I think help the viewers kind of rationalize and better understand their interpersonal feelings so we can like process better. I think that's like something specific that the griot offers that you might not find in all the other outlets. But shout out to all the Black media, because that's something that we need to
First and foremost, the
it's not
griot, but all of them.
first and foremost the griot. But shout out to all Black media, because we need to band together. It's a collective goal of showcasing these stories and being a circuit for people to have an outlet to share what's really going on. So
Yeah, and see some positive things about Black people in media, because again, I feel like if you watch local news or even just regional news, that'll be, oh, there was a festival, and then they'll pull up a mugshot of a Black person and be like, and this person raped somebody or shot somebody, or like, okay, just to remind us that Black people are scary.
yes. And like something that I'm excited to share and that I'm proud about, to your point, is like we offer stories on the other side of that. Like when Botham Jean was murdered, we had his family on, and to speak on like their perspective. I think even though it's still like sad and unfortunate, the thing that the griot offers is more perspective and opinions, and just a fuller story of what's actually happening versus the bullet points that mainstream media may offer.
Yeah, because media in general is a very, again, I struggle for the word here, but it's hard enough to know if what you're getting is legitimate news anyway, but it's even harder to find out if you've got the full scope of it, or if it's just a very one-sided opinion, that you can just know coming into it, oh, it's about this person's going to be upset about it or praise it just based on the headline, what's in the headline.
Yeah.
So was when you were doing the red carpet for When They See Us, I had to look it up because I'm terrible at remembering song names and movie names
Yes.
and show names. When you got on the red carpet for that, was that via the griot?
Yes.
Okay.
The majority, if not all, the majority of my red carpet experiences have been corresponding for the griot. And, that's something near and dear to my heart, because I was telling this story recently.
It doesn't get much hostier than being on the red carpet. Yeah.
I'm saying, right? Like I teach a class to teenage girls about digital media, right? And I was telling this story
cool.
about being, I was telling a story about being on the red carpet, my transition to getting there, right? So, I was talking earlier about how, I used to watch the Cosby Show, Sesame Street, all these things that were based in New York City, and I always have had the desire to live here, right? And I always thought to myself that I don't have to be jealous of celebrities or people who work in limelight, because I would say as a young child, like, I'm going to work with celebrities, right? Like I felt that in my spirit. And so being on red carpets is a direct manifestation of that. And people in the media world, they have mixed feelings about red carpets. Like, it's not, from the outside looking in, it's like, oh, it's glamorous, it's great. But when you're on the carpet, when you're actually doing it, like, it's a lot going on. Like, there's a lot to not like it's a hustle and bustle. There is no space. Like, you have like your own like little square where you're supposed to stand at, please. Like, I have been literally knocked down. Like,
You guys are all penned in like farm animals. All, hey, hey, will you talk to me? Will you? Hey,
that's it. That's it. Completely accurate reenactment, right? Like, it's so much going on. You have to ask questions in an expeditious nature because they got to keep it going down the line. It's not like this nice, casual, sit down, talk to you, get comfortable.
pull up a chair. Yeah.
None of that. So there's a lot of drama that can go on with red carpet that, again, some of my counterparts don't enjoy. But let me tell you something, Chris. All of it's for me. All of it. I can hang so tough on the red carpet. I could do a carpet every week. Let me tell you. I like running camera from the back. I like producing from the side, and I sure enough like hosted in front of the camera, right? Like, I like all parts of the carpet, even getting knocked down. I've been cussed out. It's been all kinds of stuff behind the scenes in these carpets. And you know what? I'll get right back up and I'll keep doing it because it's fun to me.
Go ahead and tell us what celebrity was the biggest asshole. No, I'm just kidding. You don't have to throw him under the bus.
No, that's, oh man, I would never. But
I did have some people tell me, people that listened to the Pedro the Roadie episode, he was like, "Oh yeah, man, I roadied for, it was like a remember the '90s like hip hop tour or something like that," and he was like, this rapper, and this rapper were really cool. This rapper was a piece of shit. This rapper was like lazy as hell and would hardly even get up to go do anything and was trying to get us to pick up his trash. Like, he didn't say that on the show, but afterwards.
Listen, and it's like that. I think, you can really kind of get an insight on, people's character because I'm, as much as we on the carpet, some people look at you as the help, right? And mind you, being a hospitality major, like I am of service, and that's part of me, and I like that. But
you're there for them, but it's not like to blow your nose and wipe your ass. Get your shit together.
Yeah. And I'm clear on how. I think I'm more clear than maybe the average person on the mannerisms and tone of voice and interaction when somebody understands and is there and supports you being me, like as the person of service, or if they have the expectation of, oh, you're here to be of service, like there's a difference.
Yeah.
And
don't look me right in my eyes.
All that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can say that the majority, I would say over 90% of my experiences on red carpets with people of stature, celebrity, all that, they have overwhelmingly been very positive. And the ones that have been a little turbulent, well, we were able to navigate those as well. So
have you had any that were just like so bad where you're like, there's nothing to salvage from this? We're just going to have to trash this one and use something else?
Nope. It's never been that serious. Nope. Because at the end of the day, like,
so you haven't had somebody like put their hand on your face and like just push you out of the way or anything like that?
I couldn't even imagine. No. But I will say, like, I've had to get over some of my own imposter syndrome because, like, I know what I'm here to do.
Yeah.
I'm hosting, like I have camera, whatever. And
especially in any creative field where there's not a clear way to like gauge, like, I'm better than 80% of the other accountants in this firm. Like, it's all, am I being my best? And most creative people want to strive for better all the time. So like, no, I never did good enough. I never asked the right questions or, whatever the thing was for me personally. I'm not talking about you, but I'll always think of, oh, I should have edited that differently, or I should have asked this question, or I should have not talked so long about that.
You do struggle with that and kind of go back and forth. And part of my inner struggle has been to say more positive things to myself and, just understand you're doing the best.
Force that sometimes and then quiet the voice down and you're like, I'm good at this. I'm smart. I'm creative. I can do this. No, you can't, you piece of shit. Shut up.
Verbatim internal dialogue, right? Yes.
Yeah.
And you have to come back and be like, yes, you are great. You are great. You're going to keep going, right?
Mm-hmm.
And unexpected kind of like positive feedback from, celebrities. Like every once in a while, a celebrity will drop like a real nice, like a genuine nice comment on me that,
yeah. When you were, oh God. I can't remember the actress's name, but she played the mother of one of the kids in When They Say This. And you asked her a question, she goes, "Oh wow, that's a really great question." And when I looked at you after she said that, and I was like, if that was me, I would have been like,
I know, right? Yes, yes, that's a win. And they be like, because sometimes folks, no. Let me tell you how much of a win that is. I've been on red carpets where I'll ask a question and the celebrity will not answer it. They'll be like, well,
they'll just deflate and be like, "Ugh."
yeah. They'll be like, ugh. Or they'll be like, the question should be, and then they'll answer the question they want to answer versus the question that you asked, right? So for somebody to be like, oh, that's a good question, and then go into it, it's such a win. It's a win. So yes.
Yeah. I tried to start a collection of anytime someone's like, "Oh, that's a good question," but I got like 2-3 of them collected, and I was like, this just feels like I'm patting myself on the back, so I stopped it. I was going to try to weave it into my introduction, but the way the whole thing I wanted to do it was have like 3 or 4 people be like, "Wow, that's a good question," and then had one where one guy like was like, "Yeah, I get that question all the time," and have it line it up, and then like record scratch with that. But I'd gotten rid of that file. It was one of the earlier episodes.
I
I
like
wasn't
that
saving
idea.
all my files yet.
I support it. If you end up using that for this or any other segment, I support it.
Yeah, that's the other thing about creative stuff. When it's something like this, and I'm like, I'm the host of this show, and I make this happen. It's easy to feel like how much self-congratulatory behavior is necessary. You know what I mean? It's not about me; it's about the show and the theme of the show and the guests on the show. And
True, but marketing says that you have to explain and let people know why
yeah,
you're great.
yeah,
I
and
know
that's
why you're
something
great.
that I've been trying to work on. Like, how long have I been doing this now? A little over a year, since like March of last year. I feel like maybe just in the last 4 or 5 months, I've gotten comfortable being like, "Oh, I'm going to insert a personal story here and tell you something about me to give you something to bounce it back off of, and to be a little bit more like put a little bit more of myself, like my real self, into the show, rather than just, hello, I'm the host and I'm going to ask you this."
I think that's excellent. And I think that's loosening up, getting more into your craft and fighting
Yeah.
that imposter syndrome. Yes, Chris, let's go.
Well, the downloads keep creeping up in the right direction, so that's good.
Hey, consistency, going in the right direction. All
Consistency.
that's love. Look
Yeah,
at you.
consistency. And that's a big thing I would say too, that I don't know, you might say the same thing. If you do something and you don't get the results you want right away, keep doing it, because very few people just make a big splash right away. I had to have a blog for like a year before I got 40 followers, and now it's over 100 followers, something like that. You know what I mean? The social media stuff, that all grew not that I have a big one now, but trying to just get organic follows from zero, to get from 0 to 400 or something like that. What am I now? Very slow, but gradual. And if you just keep doing it, it turns into something, to where you eventually somebody goes, "Hey, I follow you on social media," when you're walking down the street. And I'm like, holy shit. And I called like 5 people. I was like, dude, I just got recognized.
Yes. Yes. Praise God for those moments. Those little
Those are
pieces.
fun. Yeah.
No, you're doing the right thing. Yes.
Yeah. That I'm not just throwing this all into a vacuum, that somebody, because when you do a podcast too, you can, somebody clicks on it and listens to the first 2 seconds. That's a download. You don't know if they listen to the whole thing or not. So yeah, trying to get feedback on a podcast can be difficult sometimes.
Yes, but you're doing it, and look, and you have proof that it's working out for people. So that's wonderful.
Yeah. So on that note, when did you feel like things really started to happen for you in that media world? Like, how long from the point where you're like, okay, I'm going to start teaching myself this, to the point where you're like, oh shit, I've got a paying job? Like, how much time went by?
Oh man, 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a fair amount of time, like having some self-doubt and being like, no, I'm just going to keep plugging away.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And yeah, like I started recording myself doing my show in 2016. And yeah, it was 2018 before I got the gig with the Griot. And I've worked with them in different capacities, ever since. Yeah. So, and then like in the beginning, I was still working as an educator, full time, all that. And then I knew I wanted to make the transition. And so there was a period in there, a couple months before I transitioned fully. Right.
Yeah.
So that, like, the top of 2018 was a trip. That was turbulent for me because, again, I'm sitting in the unknowing rather. Like, I don't know what's going to happen next. I've put these feelers out. I've put my attention in this direction, but things, had not developed or unfolded yet. So like my perspective there, kind of to your point of it takes a while to build it up. Like, sometimes you have to sit in the insecurity. Sometimes you have to sit in the dark and the unknowing and not knowing what's going on next. Because like, if I would have taken a job or went in a different direction to like have stability right then, it would have blocked the moment that gave me the transition into media. Because the conference that I went to where I met she is VP of content now. But back then she had a different title, and she brought me in. If I wouldn't have been at that event, it was a daytime event. Usually I'd be at work during the day, right? So if I would have had, like to, honor traditional business hours at a steady job, then it'd be a lot less likely that I'd have made that event. And that is, the catalyst, or, the big thing that helped me transition into media in the capacity I'm in now. Right. So, being able to get over the feeling of needing to be comfortable all the time.
Yeah. That really, one of my guests was a comedian named Chanel Ali, who had the best comedy album of the year in 2020, said NPR. And we were talking about, how she gets her content. And she said, basically, it all comes down to just like living life with an attitude of yes. If somebody's like, hey, we're going to go do this thing that you know nothing about, you want to go do it with us? Instead of being like, well, I was going to reorganize my closet this weekend. Like, no, go do that thing. See what happens. See who you meet. See what you learn. Just taking that attitude of like, yes, when an opportunity comes around, or a chance to do something, to learn something, to live a little bit, to just take it. But I think, a lot of people would be like, oh, I don't know. So I guess I hope, if anything, people just get a little bit more of that attitude from talking to or listening to me talk to people like you and Chanel and all the other guests.
Absolutely. I like that. And I like how it's phrased. I can say that I do think I live my life that way, but I'm not sure if I've ever put it that way. Like an attitude of yes, absolutely. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah. So if you're listening, people, still, we're glad you're here. Go take charge of your life just by saying, yes, I can do this. Why not? I've never done it before, but I can figure it out. Because one thing that somebody told me before I went to the boot camp was, I was talking to a guy who was in the Marines, like 30 years before. And I was like, man, I'm really nervous about boot camp. He's like, why? Lesser men than you graduate every week. I was like, oh. And that just took all the, you good? Okay. And that took all the burden really off my shoulders. I was like, oh man, what if I fail? It's like, you won't. There's idiots that get through all the time. You'll be fine. And so now I try to take that attitude too. Like, you know what? A lot of people go into, like for me, I was like, I'm leaving teaching. I'm going to go write a book. Maybe a lot of people want to write a book, but they're just like, that's not a real thing. I'll work for a while and save up, and then I'll write when I'm on vacation or when I get older. But if nobody took those chances, then we wouldn't have all those great books, or we wouldn't have all this great music, or we wouldn't have all this great digital content. So
we would have books if people didn't take time to write the books, right? Yeah.
So take time to do it, even if it doesn't pay dividends immediately. And the other thing I want to talk about too is, you seem like a person who has a pretty healthy sense of taking risks. And I mean healthy in terms of like you enjoy taking risks. I feel like part of the education, maybe not even the education, but the culture of the education that we got was, make the smart decision, find where the money is going to be in something that you don't mind doing, and just do that. But find something that you like doing, and then see if money maybe follows that, instead of just trying to chase money. Because I know a lot of people now that are like, yeah, I'm a doctor, but I'll tell you right now, if I could do it all over again, I'd be a carpenter. Like, oh, okay. Make half as much money over the course of your life, but just don't do something for money. Do something for love, and then passion will fall out of that. Like, I had another guest too that worked special effects, left a big company to start his own virtual reality company. And a lot of people are like, why would you leave? I mean, I think the company just got bought out by Disney. So essentially they're like, why would you leave Disney to go start your own virtual reality company? He's like, well, if this doesn't work, then I'll just have one more thing on my resume that shows initiative and taking chances and willingness to lead. And I was like, oh yeah, you know what? When you think about it like that, just because you left one opportunity doesn't mean like, oh my God, all the opportunities are gone now. Just look
Right.
for new ones. Look for new ones. Make new ones.
Yes. And I think we don't focus enough on that. We don't teach enough of that. And there's this
No,
energy and spirit of
because
fear.
you pass or you fail, and everybody's so scared of failing. But failing is part of success in the long run of anything that you do. Like, you're going to edit some videos and they're not going to look that great, but you keep doing it and eventually it gets better and it gets better. You keep
That
hosting a podcast, eventually you figure out how to edit it and put it together, right? Yeah. So yeah, just the idea that you're bad at something, don't let that deter you from doing it. Get better at it.
yes. Why is that so hard for people? I think it goes back to we're taught to pass and not fail. And
Yeah.
I think it goes back to like
You got to
fear
get it right
and
the first time.
yeah. Yeah. And I've messed up so many things. It's just not that big of a deal anymore.
Yeah.
That's okay. Let's run it back. Let's try it again.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not the idea of failing upwards. It's the idea of failing until you figure out what success looks like and then doing the right thing. Yeah.
Figuring out what success looks like, that's a big thing for me. Like, that's what I look to support and help people with. And that's like a big tenet of my own journey, like figuring out what my personal success is and being focused on following that versus
Yeah.
what society or family or any kind of like group pressures have to say. Like, what does your internal voice say? What is the thing, the person, the passion inside you, the drive that exists within? Like, have you connected with that recently? And even though it may seem outlandish, like, I need you to understand, 17-year-old me, I'd be so excited if I were to be able to tell 17-year-old me, like, this is what you do now. Like, I
Yeah.
live in New York City, I live alone, and I like what I do, and I have a blonde mohawk. You couldn't have told me these things at 17. Like, what? No, it's not my reality back then. But and being a part of the creative process and really understanding that I am a creative. We are all creators, right? We get to really
Mhm.
create and tell our own story. Like, I wasn't satisfied with a lot of my story back then. And so I made some changes in it. Now, looking back, the story that I've created and what I continue to produce and create, I like my story. Like, everybody kind of has a come to Jesus moment in quarantine, right? Spending time alone and what does that look like? And do I like my life? And like these questions kind of like arise when you
Oh
get
yeah.
that, deeper sense of me time. And there's
Big
nothing,
existential moment for the entire population.
yeah, there's no entertainment to fill this. There's no game to go to. There's no bar to sit up at, right? It's me and me, right? Right here in the mirror. And a lot of people in their experience and like catching up, talking about like what their, COVID experience has been like, a lot of it has been, oh, I decided like I don't really like what I'm doing, or I, could explore other things. Let me
Yeah.
tell you something, Chris. My COVID conversations have been very positive. My personal self-to-self COVID conversations were like, yeah, we struggled with that a couple years ago, and it's crazy right now, but we still like what we do. It's like, oh yeah, we
Yeah.
messed it up back in the day, but like, we walking in the right path, right? Like, my COVID conversations haven't been like melancholy and what is my life about? I did that 10 years ago. Feel me? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. No, it was a lot the same for me too, because I remember before I started the podcast in particular, um, I'm not from this area. I've had kids ever since I lived in this area. So I don't have the social life that I did when I was younger and more free. And, I'm a very social person. So this podcast for me has been not only a social outlet, but I was also very frustrated by just like the lack of creative people I knew. And like, I didn't feel like I had like a strong creative community of people. And that's completely couldn't be further from the truth now. And I think the first episode of this podcast came out like a week before they shut everything down. So like this podcast started right at the same time as the pandemic. And yeah, I probably would be like 80 pounds heavier and very depressed if I didn't have it right now.
Mm. Look at that. But look at that timing. I love that. I love
Mm.
that about the story of the origin of this because it's so impactful, right?
Yeah.
Like I like that it's been a personal journey for you as the host because you're a facilitator, you're the curator of this, right? So like how
Yeah,
you
yeah.
feel, your stories really do matter. They kind of shape this. So I'm really excited that the timing has worked out for you to at least got started, right? Pandemic hits, you have this outlet, and listen, your guests, show enough, can't talk about they ain't got the time, right? Like we in the house, we go. This is
That
how we talk now, right? So
I didn't think about that, but yeah, there's really no excuses. Well, now
no
there is. People are
excuse.
getting back out into real life now,
Yeah,
but yeah, when I was asking people like, "Hey, you want to be on a podcast that there's only been like 3 episodes of?" They're like, "Not really, but I have nothing else to do." So yes.
and there you go, there you go.
Yeah, it all worked out. And I'm not teaching anymore too, which I liked teaching. I taught middle school English, but
Mm,
man, I feel for the teachers that taught through the pandemic and did some of the time at school, some of the time at home, and trying to do things through the computer with kids. I'm glad I didn't have to do that, but I'm glad that there were people that were fully committed to doing it. God bless teachers.
God bless them, yes, because I'm thinking about my experience in education. I don't know what that would look like during COVID. So
It would
even
have been
that,
weird.
like, yeah, even that
My
transition.
oldest kid lost her senior year of high school. She was a standout athlete and just
Mm,
lost it all senior year. Just gone.
mm. But the bright side is, the silver lining is like there's something else for her. Like I
Oh
wouldn't
yeah.
call it lost. I would say just a different trajectory, just a different place now. It's a different path.
Yeah. Well, she's always been very artistic as well. She scored the most goals on the soccer team and then was also her senior year and then also voted um the most artistic student. So
Ooh,
she's that rare blend of like can beat you up and can paint you a picture.
that's right. I'm like, that's my daughter. What's
Yeah.
up?
Yeah. So yeah, she's getting just deeper and deeper into her art too. Sometimes I put her art on my Instagram stories and I just don't tell anybody who it is.
That's a proud dad. Show off the
Yeah.
baby's work.
Oh yeah. It's good. And I'll be like, "Hey, I put your stuff on my stories." She's like, "Why do you do that?" And I was like, "Because it's good." And more
That's
people should see
right.
it.
That's right.
So,
And building up that support in her. Girls need that. We need that. So I love that.
yeah. 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 I'm a I'm a girl dad and I enjoy it. I'm also a boy dad too, but being a girl dad's fun. It's different because boys you can be like, "Hey," and they're like, "What?" But if you
Right.
try that
You gotta talk
with a little
a certain
girl, you're
kind of
like,
way.
"Hey," and they're like, "Oh." They just start crying. You're like, "Okay, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Let's play tea party." All right.
Break out the tea sets.
Yeah, it
Yes.
got me in touch with a whole different side of myself.
I like that. And
Yeah.
we need the balance. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Being around girls, young girls, raising them totally chilled me out. Being around the boys kind of brought my insanity back out, but it's leveled out to where I don't think we're a danger to each other.
That's good.
Yeah.
I like the
Yeah.
yin and the yang. That's what the balance is. Absolutely.
Yeah. It is kind of nice though to be able to be like, "Hey, what are you doing?" at a kid and then like not collapse emotionally. It feels good to yell at my boys. I'm just gonna say that right now. I don't hit them, but I'll yell at them sometimes.
Mm. Play them up
uh,
right.
yeah. Oh, I wanted to ask you too. Are you gonna do any yoga content online? Because one thing I've thought about since we talked the last time was when you type in yoga videos on YouTube, you'll get about 800 videos of white women. Occasionally, somebody who doesn't match that specific description, but like, there's not a lot of diversity and inclusion in yoga on YouTube.
You want to take a class? You want to do an online class? Is that what you're trying to say? You
I'll
want
take,
to
yeah, I'll do some, I'll do some flakes like frosted yoga.
That's right. That's right. My yoga, my wellness service rather, is entitled Om in the City. And it's meant to communicate Om, which is
OM, not HOME, because that kind of sounded like you were saying home in the city. But yeah,
You're
OM.
you're right. OM,
Yeah.
right? And so
Yeah.
OM is it's a collective vibration. It is a chant, right? And it can mean wisdom or roughly translate to mean peace. And the city, I use that as a term to the chaos, right? Because especially in a place like New York City, it's a lot going on.
Oh yeah.
So the idea of Om in the city is bringing that peace, that light, that wisdom to the chaos of the city. So that's what we seek to do with our pop-up wellness service. And yeah, like I have some online content that is wellness driven.
Mhm.
However, right now I am currently developing a segment that is specific to not just yoga, but I want to I want to help people live better daily, right?
Mm.
And so what this segment, the goal behind it is to show like different ways of coping with daily things that are the opposite of wellness, things like stress, anxiety, things like imposter syndrome, things that like may hold us back, right? I'm
Mm.
looking to bring the wellness element to the segment. So, offering like real time, real life perspective and like tools on how to be better in these particular areas, right? Whether that be journaling or a yoga pose or a particular practice or a kind of chant, whatever the scenario is, we're going to offer the converse to it in a digital segment, so it's like easy to share and you kind of get that that reminder, that freshen up, that perk up on I can live well, I can do it like this versus
Mm.
having to sit in something that doesn't resemble my wellness.
Mm. Yeah.
So
Just now that made me.
stay tuned for
Just,
that
I'm
on
going
the
to
way
stay tuned for
soon.
that.
Hmm.
One thing that I'll say that might help creative people is have a clean workspace, because when you're thinking what my wellness looks like, I remember one time talking to a therapist and he was like, "Is your workspace clean?" I was like, he's like, "That's probably a no. Clean your workspace, because you'll feel better mentally if you're not like notes under here and stuff over here and garbage over here." So I don't know why I felt compelled to say that, but yeah, what wellness looks like, one tip of what wellness looks like is not super cluttered workplaces.
I listen, that's part of the segment. Yes. I know why you felt inclined. The spirit was like, drop that gem right now. Like, that's excellent. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Yes.
Yeah. So what does that mean, a pop-up wellness service? Like you'll just show up at a certain street corner and be like, "Hey, we're going to tell you how to do stuff better."
Yes, that's a great question. What is pop-up wellness? Ooh, so it exists in two kind of capacities, right? Uh, we like to offer consistent services, and we use the term pop-up because we are programming for existing programs. What that means is we offer classes like arts and crafts and yoga, more prominently, to after school programs, to summer
Mm.
camps, to nonprofits, to senior centers. So we pop up in your location, right? Like we're not a physical studio. We're more so an energy of light and wellness that we
That you
carry.
might see being done at like a Boys and Girls or a YMCA or something like that.
Yes. Yep, we carry that to the facilities that we service, right? So
Yeah.
in contracts like that, we like to offer ongoing services, which means like we might do a 6-week summer camp, or we might do a 17-week semester for an after school program where we'll offer like
Okay.
one class a week for that population. Also, so that's like one way we pop up, right?
Mhm.
Also, we offer things like corporate wellness, where a organization might have a wellness day, and for the wellness day it might be indoors, outdoors, whatever. They might have a segment where they want to do some yoga, right? This is usually how we pop up anyway. They'll have
Mhm.
like a whole day dedicated to wellness for the staff, and it'll have different vendors that offer different things like massages, things like that, and we're like the yoga part. And
Mm.
so when we pop up there, we pop up for, this is not ongoing and continuous. It's like a one-time session with them. And the client might, they might need this like once or twice a year, right? And so we'll pop up at the location and bring our yoga mats, the instructor, the music, whatever other materials, and we'll do a live session right there with the students, with the class in that moment. And, we'll have our session, give a talk back afterward, and hopefully leave the space better than how we found it. That's our goal.
Hmm. All right. I want to talk to you about your jewelry design too, because these earrings are fantastic. If my ear holes weren't closed off, then I would get them for myself.
Listen, they're clip-on, honey.
Bold jewels.
They're clip-on.
Ha Well, there you go. I got no excuse now. Get bold jewels. When did you start making earrings? And it's not just earrings, or
it is just earrings.
It is earrings. Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So when did you get into the earring game?
So let me recall, because it's been a while. Like I was saying a little while before, I didn't go into all the different businesses that I started, because there have been a few. Yeah. Before making this type of jewelry, I make candy jewelry, right? I had this idea. I was like, I'm about to make fashion candy jewelry, right? And it was like cute.
Those old necklaces that you used to bite off, but like actually looked good.
Exactly. See, you see how that's why I know you're creative, because I said that to people, they'd be like, "What are you talking about?" But I told you like one sentence, like, "Oh yeah, this is it," and I'm like, "Yes." So I started. Yeah, I started my jewelry making journey there, and that was 2015. And yeah, just me and YouTube. I have the utensils, and I was making like mostly necklaces and bracelets, right? But they were like fashionable, but like candy. But like I didn't make them for people to eat. I made them for people to wear, right? Just putting that out there.
Did you put like a coating on it so that it like didn't like melt or anything? Like, okay.
I did, yeah, like a shellac over.
Okay, so you absolutely should not eat those.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
In the future, like I'm not, any idea I've had in the past that I've had to like put on the back burner, I'm not like completely done with it. It's just that my dreams have to have priority, right? So I'm not completely done with that. I think
and some ideas just to get to the front of the line whether you want them to or not.
Exactly. So we'll reinvestigate that when it's time to. However, from that, it got me into like the whole like world of jewelry making. And so, like that was just like my first foot in the door. So then I said, I want to make like just earrings. Like it seemed like it was too big of a concept for whatever audience I was trying to sell to, that this is candy jewelry that you can't eat. Like it just wasn't computing. Right. So I was like, well, I still like making jewelry, and earrings have always, I shouldn't say always, earrings in my adult life have more so been my things. I was big on necklaces, I think, and maybe bracelets. I wore a lot of bangles. I think necklaces as a kid, bangles in like my early part of my young adult life. And now my main bag are my earrings. So the reason why is because my grandmother, God rest her, she passed during COVID. She is...
Did she have COVID, or was it not related?
No. Well, I have my suspicions that it potentially could be COVID related, but that's not what the reports say. So either way, my...
Yeah, sorry to hear about your grandmother.
Family. I'm back. And the pandemic has been like a real big shift for me, my family, right? But to speak on some of her lasting impact. So my grandmother was like flyer than fly. I'm talking dressed down. I'm talking like, don't let it be Sunday. She's laid, okay? I'm talking about hair laid, hat matched the watch, matched the earrings, matched the shoes, everything, right? Grandma's always super fly. And she had costume jewelry for days. And this must have been either when I'm in college or graduating college. Instead of doing like a large present, like how grandparents like to do, she transitioned into doing all that to, she would collect her old jewelry and give that to me and my sister. And we would have to, it would be a thing. She would make sure it was fair, right? And she would divide it amongst us. And, everything got to be fair, right? Like, everybody got to get their fair share, right? And
Mom.
That was, like, where's mine? So, you have siblings, right? You get it. Like, you can't have more than me.
I have one sister, so we didn't argue over jewelry and stuff, but there was plenty of other stuff.
right. So, that's what we would do for Christmas, and me and my sister would so look forward to it. Like, I can't think of a better present in life than my grandmother's jewelry, right? Like, as far as material things, that's what I want. So, we got in that tradition of her getting her earrings and just all, her belts, hats, like it just everything fly, and it definitely has had an impact on like my overall view of fashion. I think I have a eclectic kind of vintage style because I like to wear a lot of her old pieces, right? So making jewelry, the candy jewelry that didn't really it didn't really like leave the nest how I would have wanted because the concept was
It's
beyond
too
what
much
people
of a
could understand.
tease. You can't give Americans candy and not let them eat it.
Yeah. So yeah, between that and then having this background, of my grandmother giving us her stuff, it was like, okay, what can I do with this? And so the name Get Bold, right? So Get Bold is something my grandma used to say to my sister because I would always pick out all the big gaudy earrings that drip down to here and necklaces that weigh 10 pounds looking like rapper chains and stuff like that. Like that's the kind of stuff I like, right? Whereas my sister is more like, she's more logical. She wants something that's practical. She wants it
Hmm.
to be more dainty. Like her style is just a little bit different than mine. And my grandmother, like, was kind of over it. She was like, get bold, pick out this necklace, like be seen, like make sure you have something that is a showstopper on your neck too, right? So my grandma would say stuff to my sister like get bold, and we would laugh about it. And so that's where the name Get Bold comes from. And so
Okay.
I want to think in probably 2017 is when I started to like, look for acrylic beads and like, different things that would reflect the earrings that my grandmother would give us. And so from there, I found some shops in New York that had a couple of things. So between that and, finding the earring backs and different things, I just started like playing around and making some of my own designs, and then I started putting them on my ears and wearing them myself. And I get compliments all the time for the earrings that I wear. I'd be like, I have to whisper, I have to lean close, especially from men, like more than ever. Like usually earrings and accessories are something that a girl would like notice or pick up or say something. I'm not gonna say women don't notice them and compliment
Yeah.
me there too, thanks to all the ladies. But I specifically noticed that like men stop me and say like, oh, I like specifically your earrings, and these are things that I designed. So it helps me with my own struggles against imposter syndrome, because somebody who just sees me walking down the street, who doesn't know me from a can of paint, compliments something that I like kind of put my heart into, and that that'll kind of boost your self-confidence a little bit, right?
Yeah,
Not
yeah.
because of actual earrings, because it's something that I made. So yeah, like I
That
yeah, late
should
16,
be one of the
27.
points that you market that on, is that these are the earrings that will get the guys to notice. Yeah.
Okay, listen, they are conversation starters, let me tell you. So yes, probably started actually like making them in probably like 17. And I just wore them like one-offs. I just would wear the one-offs that I made myself for years. It wasn't
Yeah.
until 2019, right before the pandemic, that I had a launch, right? So my birthday's in November, the first week in November. So like the second week in November in 2019, I had a launch where I like made multiple sets. This is my first time like mass producing. I made maybe like 10 or 12 sets of each pair of this line. And, I had a party, and that was like my intro into like putting them out to the world as far as like them being available for purchase. But then, COVID happened. And so I had to, like rearrange some priorities. However, the website's still up. People still, purchase them. I've had a few scenarios where I'll be at an event or out at a restaurant and a woman will buy them off my ears. And that always will kind of put some light into the night, right? Like I'll sell them right off my ears and be like, this is how much they cost. They can cash at me, put the cash in my hand. Like I've had a couple experiences like that. And so, that always is like a positive thing. You have a product that people want when they're ready to take it from you right now. So yeah.
Yeah. That's cool. Well, some of the things that we talked about with you're like planning digital content. Do you have any advice for people who are where you were when you were like, learning to do it all yourself and, just trying to get set up and make a digital presence for themselves? Do you have kind of a couple sentences or even like a whole starter package of like, you need to get this and this and this?
What an excellent question. Yes. So when I first got started, I was just so beyond myself. I just felt like I jumped into a hole. And anytime I felt like I got something done, a new door opened and it was like a whole nother level and layer of things that I didn't know. Right.
Mm, yeah.
And I, in putting together my first show where it was just me and my cell phone, something that I kind of struggled with was like, I have these ideas and I'm not 100% sure, like I'm not feeling as if they're really being translated or being communicated like through the screen. Right.
Mm.
And what I'm grateful to testify on now is that's literally what I do now, right? Like the slogan for Visionscape Productions, which is my digital video production firm, is that we turn vibes into video. So I've been able to, take what I needed and become that. So now I'm able to offer that to other people. So to answer your question, some words of perspective that I can give for any content creator, whether you're young and aspiring and just looking to get in now and get your feet wet, or if you've done this for a while and you're looking to, kind of excel and take your content to the next level. What I'll say is, first, have a real clear understanding of like what you're looking to communicate, because, as creatives, it's often that we'll have 10 different ideas that we're looking to make into one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
For
uh,
sure.
I do it, like it's not like I'm not a victim of this too. So what I'll first say is, I'm not saying that all those ideas cannot be incorporated, because that's what I like to do with the consulting side of my firm, right? We find
Mhm.
ways to work in the things that you're most passionate about. But like that's with some expert advice. I'm talking to the people who are just starting out, who are doing it on their own, right? Those 10 things that you're trying to do, get a focus somewhere first, right? And then from there, have a real like meeting, even if it's with yourself. Have a real meeting and lay out exactly what you want to do. Like what I call it a segment sandwich, but it's like the run of show of things that you're going to hit, right? Like have a real organized system of what it looks like. Take the ideas that are in your head that are kind of jumbled around that only you understand, even if you understand them really well, lay it
Mm.
out, because, and this is for the intro people and if you want to grow, right?
Mhm.
People cannot read your mind, literally.
Yeah.
They can try and they can get real. It's some clairvoyant folks out here. Don't get me wrong, but like uh, laying things out in a way that people outside of your head can understand is only going to help you,
Yeah,
right?
self-expression is hard enough, but when you're trying to clearly get something into somebody else's brain, it's a whole other thing.
Yes. Yeah. So, focusing at least in the beginning on the singular or small group of major ideas and what you're looking to communicate. That's one. Having a clear plan, like laying it out, even if it's only you that's shooting, editing, directing, like how I was in the beginning, right? I did
Mm.
not do this and this would have helped me, right? Laying that out. And if you have to, say your show isn't just talking heads, say it's like an interview kind of situation, any kind of scenario where you're going to be involving other people outside of yourself, then the organization has another layer. Have an organized system of how you reach out and coordinate the person or people that are going to be working with you, right?
Mm.
And then don't be afraid to put out your show. Like we talked about this a little bit earlier, but this is
Yeah.
like the how to put it in practice part of that. Like
Mhm.
if you want to do it, don't start and stop. I'm talking about like a individual, like the beginning of your segment. Don't
Yeah.
like wait until it's perfect to put it out. Make what you're gonna make and make the whole thing. Even if you don't like it, even if you end up not putting it out, make it. And
Yeah.
then once you do that, this is the real. If you didn't hear anything else I said, this is the real gem right here. Right here. You ready?
Mhm.
We talked about it a little bit earlier, but I'm gonna put it again. If there's a sound effect like a dun dun, like this is where to hit it, right?
Okay. I got it.
Once you
Yep.
do all that, or even if you don't do none of it, this is the key right here. And anybody else who's in the digital game, they will agree with me. If not, I'm not sure what kind of time they're on. This is the gem right here. Be consistent.
Yeah.
Put it out. Like if you say you're gonna do something once a week, Like, make sure it goes out, and it might not be forever. It might be this once a week for 3 months. It might be like this for a year out. Like, you might want to do an ongoing and continuous. But my thing is, like, we touched on this a little bit before, but this is the double down on the reasoning why. Like, we are in this digital era in life, and the digital understanding is not the same as like a regular social interaction. When I say that, I mean, like, if we're having this conversation, me and you right now, and we're in a group of maybe 500 in the audience, we're getting
Mm.
the feedback instantly.
Yeah.
If there's a joke, they're laughing right now. If there's a question, they're asking in this moment, right? The
Mm-hmm.
way the digital landscape works, it's just not that way. We still have those features, but we don't have the real time response, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, the feedback that you want to get, the laughs, the comments, the growth, that
Yeah.
doesn't just happen, you know, automatically. It comes from consistency, really deciding who your audience is and having targeted messaging for them, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's another like gem, but like getting it right and figuring it out for yourself and for them. It might not be a one and done thing. It might not be a one season and done thing, right? Like, that's something that's ongoing and continuous. So what I'll say to wrap it all up in a bow, right, is let the things that you're focusing on, let them be your passions, period. Like, kind of how we spoke on a little bit earlier, because when you're passionate about it, when it gets tough, you're going to keep doing it. If it's only for the money, or if you're kind of like, feel what, like whatever about it, then when it gets tough, you're like, this is whack, and move on to the next. Your goal, again, is the gem, consistency, to help you as a creative with your own availability to be able to be consistent. What you're focusing on needs to be something you're passionate about. So you create the space for you to be able to be consistent. And then no matter what it is, like the first time around, go ahead and just cut the whole thing and hopefully put it out. If it's like too rough that you don't want to put out, again, consistency, keep doing it until you get to a point where you're ready and feel comfortable putting it out. And then once you do, if you don't want to stay ongoing and continuous forever, at least set a time frame. You're going to be consistent, and hell or high water, make sure you do that so you can fulfill that to yourself and to the audience that you're creating. And what that does is start to build momentum in the right direction. Personally, it helps you with your own imposter syndrome, if that's something that you suffer from, because you're, you know, seeing and proving to yourself that you're able to do it, which, you know, will calm those voices inside. And then to your audience and just the law of attraction in general, you know, putting out things that are what you want to return back to you, right? Like, you build that momentum in the right direction, and you'll surprise yourself and all the growth in places that you'll go. Even if it doesn't look like, even if you don't hit like every measurement or goal, getting started and having something to work with is much better than always staying in the ideation process. If you're always like, oh, I want it to look like this, and it should be that way, and I'm designing it like this, again, plan it out, but set an execution date and get it out there so you can like look at actual numbers versus what you want.
And it's easy to get stuck in that way of thinking and then just never fucking do it.
Yes. So the real answer to your question is, to sum up in one word, is consistency. But then we went, you know, through some different perspectives, some steps on how to, like, you know, get that internally and externally.
Yeah. Well said. Is there anything else that you want to talk about that I did not bring up?
I want to just extend my gratitude for being able to share this moment, this space with you, for, you know, being a featured guest, to be able to talk about creativity and some of the things that I love and that I'm into. And, you know, I really hope that anybody listening, anybody watching, anybody who feels called or compelled to create in their own way can take this information and, you know, really let it be a source of inspiration. And beyond inspiration, empowerment, encouragement to act and do, right?
Yes.
I don't want you to stay inspired. I want this to, you know, change your behavioral patterns. I want this to, you know, add another bullet point of things you're going to get done today, because this is a part of what your large dreams, you know, pertain to, right? Like, again, I'm grateful. What I want to share is I'm grateful for this platform. I, hope to connect with, anybody who wants to connect on any of the things that we talked about today. But regardless of anything else, what I do want to express is that we are all creative beings. Our bare hands are made to create. And, I hope that anybody who is struggling or wants to do more in their personal creative process can take this or any other kind of platform or inspiration and really change the trajectory of their life by following their inner being and, doing things that are in alignment with their calling and their personal purpose that the big creator puts within us. So that's my 2 cents.
Awesome. All right. Last thing then, tell people where they can find you, and I'll make sure that all of it gets put up in the show notes too. So if you're listening, you go, wait a minute, she said that too fast. It's in the show notes. Calm down.
Yes, you can find me at www.alexisflakes.com. You can also find me on Instagram at Flakes Like Frosted. My handle is that way because I am from the Midwest. I speak quickly, and people mistake my last name for Slakes, Bakes, and everything else. So I remind them,
Flax?
Yeah, by saying Flakes Like Frosted, like as in frosted flakes. And no, I am not flaky. I am great, like Tony.
That's not the first time you said that, is it?
Oh yeah, gotta remind the folks. Let them know. No, that's not Flakes Like flaky. This is great, like the cereal, like Tony. That's what this is.
That's good branding, and it's consistent. That's the big one. And I'll say that I'll just knock that one too. My downloads started going up at a higher level when I moved from doing one kind of like every 2 or 3 weeks to every 2 weeks, and then again to every week. So when people know something is going to be there, they're a lot more likely to invest in it.
Ooh, so you're proving my points of consistency? Praise God.
Yep. And then on that note, man, let me know through Instagram sometime next time you're going to be in Okemos. Like if you're around for the winter holidays, I'll drop by when I'm at my parents' house, say hi, because I haven't seen your mom in a long time. Jeez. Well, it's probably since the last time I saw you, and you were like 12 or 13. You're like, how come they get to watch TV? Why do I got to leave, man?
No, I think that was exactly it. Like that was the source of a lot of arguments. Like, why do you get the remote? Like, why? I need to have some say in this too, right? So little sister problems.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Good luck to you in everything that you've got going out there, and hopefully one of these days we bump into each other back in Chieftain country.
That's right. Are we still chieftains? Is Okemos still chieftains?
Oh, geez. Yeah. I don't know. They might have just gone to the Chiefs and gotten rid of all Native American identifying logos. I'm not sure.
I was gonna say, like, it's not cute to have Native Americans as mascots anymore. So now I don't know how they're going to do that.
Yeah. The whole town is named after a Native American. That just puts them in a pickle.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure how to politically correct your way out of that, but God bless them. I hope they figure it out.
All the best of luck to you, city of Okemos, which I found out isn't even a city now.
It's not. It's never been a city.
It's a school district within Meridian Township.
Yes, it's like it's a zip code, right?
Yeah. Or same thing as Hazlet. Hazlet and Okemos both don't technically exist. They're just school districts within a township.
Yep. Within Meridian Town. Meridian Township is the actual city.
Yeah. Yeah, because when you look at our police cars, they all say Meridian Township on them. Well, ours, theirs. Used to be ours, collectively.
Used to be ours.
I'm just mumbling into nothing now, so it's probably a good time to get out of here.
Yeah, well, again, Chris, I appreciate you for this platform. Thank you so much for a riveting conversation. And
thanks for coming on. You were a fantastic guest. I've been having fun this entire time, and I'm excited for people to hear it. I'm bummed that it's not going to come out for like another week and a half, but it'll be good.
It will be good. All right, my friend. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. You have a wonderful rest of the week.
Oh, I will. Thank you for the permission. You as well.
All right.
Take care.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much to Alexis Flakes. Check her out again at Flakes Like Frosted, www.alexisflakes.com, or check the show notes. Thank you all for coming and checking out the show. I know there's a million other podcasts out there you could be listening to, and I thank you for choosing this one. Mwah! Love you guys. And remember,
this is what you want to do, spend your time doing that and just that.